Hi, I'm Allie. Join me as I show you how to make these Peyote Stitch-based streaming American flag earrings. They have the streaming coming down. We've also done some kind of wavy ones as well, but this one gives a nice appearance of the flag flowing there at the bottom. If you need any materials, remember they're at the bottom of the video in the description. You can click on that and then show more. That'll give you a link back to the site. So each year, I like to do a little bit of a variation on something patriotic and the American flag. You can also do this with your own country flag if the American flag's not it. We have printable peyote stitch paper that you can create your own patterns. I've done the Stars and Stripes bracelet in the past. We did the American flag. We've done some star cracker or firecracker earrings as well. This one's going to be based on the wavy American flag and just doing peyote stitch. In a recent Facebook Live, we did one showing how to do an independent unit and create a little earring. We're going to play off of this, but do kind of more of that fringe design. I have red, white, and blue 11 seed beads here, along with gold 11s. And then I'm also going to have some of my 15 in gold too. I have some size 8 dragon thread, and I'm using about 3 feet. And the first thing we're going to do is add a stop bead. Yes, this big obnoxious green bead. I'm going to let this go down to the bottom of the piece here because I'm going to be going back up it. And we are going to basically tie a little loop to loop. From here, we are going to start our peyote stitch. I'm going to do it the same height and size as the wavy American flag bracelet. We're going to be doing our first 2 rows at once. Our first 2 rows are going to consist of a pattern here of 4 blue and then red, white, red, white. This is going to be the sides of our flag here, basically, or the way that the lines go. Row number 1 is going to have a blue bead and be even or odd counts. So beads number 1, 3, 5, and 7, the blues and the reds, are going to be row number 1. Row number 2, which we put on at the same time, is going to be the evens, 2, 4, 6, and 8, which are the white. We're going to turn our thread the opposite way to start the next one of our peyote stitch. We're going to start row number 3, and I know it's confusing because rows number 1 and 2 you put on at the same time. We're going to add 1 more white bead, which is our 9th bead total, and we're going to sew back up through the row before, which is going to be that red bead there, back through row number 1. Then we're going to add another white bead. Each row we're going to be adding 4 beads to each new row, and we're going to sew up through that red bead that sits next in line. Doing so, that gets the second of our 4 beads for our third row of our peyote stitch. Then we're going to add a blue bead, skip a blue bead, and sew up through the 3rd bead in line because we're only sewing through the odds right now. Add 1 more blue bead. We're going to sew through bead number 1 and out before that big gigantor stop bead. And this kind of looks like a Smurf to me right now. Could do some fun things with a Smurf costume or Smurf design. All right, so now we're out of bead number 1 from row 1. We want to do row number 4 now, having just completed row number 3. We're going to add and flip. I like to flip so I'm sewing away from me. Yes, the bottom of the flag is at the bottom right now. You're going to add 2 more blues, 1, sew into the blue that has 2 in that row. So we're sewing into row number 3 as we add row number 4. Then we're going to add another blue, sewing into our next blue. Now you can see which beads to add. We're coming out on the row where we need our flag stripe of red. So we add a red and sew through the white. Next, add a red, sew through our white. So each row you are adding 4 beads total. We're going to flip again. This time I'm sewing towards the stop bead at the top, and I'm coming out the bottom, and I know the next bead I add here to go back through the last row that I just completed, the red, red, blue, blue here. I'm coming out the bottom, so I need my stripe to continue there with the white. I add a white bead, sew through the red, add a white bead, sew through the red. From here then, I need to add my 2 blue beads. Blue bead into the blue bead. Blue bead into the blue bead. Flip this over. Again, sewing back up now. Add a blue bead. Sew through the blue bead as we add our next row of our peyote stitch. You can also watch the wavy American flag bracelet, which starts out a little bit differently, but still getting that nice peyote stitch. Not only can you do this with 11 seed beads like we're using here, but you can do this also with 8 seed beads if you want it to be a little bit bigger. From here, I put on my 2 blue beads, and now I'm coming out where I need to put in a red bead because it's on that red stripe, and I'm sewing into my white beads. Red stripe, white beads. Flip it, and now I'm going white and into that red. White and into the red. Right now I have 3 rows of blue, and I'm going to go in here and add 4 and 4 to those 2 lines of blue. I'm going to do one more. So my blue, see how it's 3 there, 4, 3, 4. I'm going to do one more, and then we're going to switch to our red, white, and blue. Or sorry, red and white lines. I'm going to add a blue, sew down through a blue. Add a blue, sew down through the blue. I'm coming out here in this void where I need to keep going with my red flag lines. Add a red, sew through the white. Add a red, sew through the white. Now here's where we do a little bit of a change up to go in and get that flag. Turning it so that way I'm holding it a little bit nicer and sewing away from me. Add a white. Add a white. Go through the red. Add a white. We're adding whites the whole way here. Go through the blue. Add a white. Go through the blue. No more blues shall be added. Flip it. My last row I added white. So this row, I add red to get those stripes to continue. Red, 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 and so forth. So you can see now you can make your lines of your flag as long as you want them to be. I would recommend at least going double the length of the blue. So you're going to continue over for at least 5 more rows or so. And then we're going to go in and we're going to create some fringe hanging off. Once you have your initial flag, it's time to do the drop downs. You can see here, after my blue, I did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rows of the red. So a total of 10 more rows of white, red, white, red. And I think that makes a pretty good standard flag that looks realistic. We're coming at the bottom here of white. And what we are going to do is add our fringe. So to add the fringe here, I'm coming out of the left-hand side of the white bead, and I'm going to add a total of 10 of my white beads. After those 10 white beads here, I'm going to add 1 of my gold beads, 1 of my 2mm or 3mm blue bicones, another 1 of my gold beads. We're going back up through the 2mm bicone, through our row of seed beads, all the way to the top here, leaving that last gold bead to act as a stop bead hanging at the bottom of the fringe there. You can use a 15-0 for that if you want also. If your fringe ever has a little bit of slack in the line, you can hold the bottom of the bead there and pull the extra thread. From here, then we're going to circle back through that last bead. So our thread's currently coming out of the white bead there, and we're going to circle back through that bead. What that's going to do is make it look like it's hanging right down from the white bead. Now this is the only one where you're going to have to do this section, but what we're going to do is we're going to skip over then down in front of the fringe through the red bead. When you get to the red bead here, we're doing the exact same thing. So on go 10 beads. And once those 10 beads are on, I want you to do a gold bead, a blue bead, a gold bead. Let that drop down. We're going back up now through the 2mm or 3mm bead, up through the golds and the red, coming out the top here through that last red bead. The last gold bead after the 2 will work as an anchor to hold it. Push that up towards the top here, pull the extra thread, and then that red bead that your thread is currently coming out of, so back through the red and over as well, up the peyote stitch, so you're coming out the next row of your stripe of your white. Now we're going to go in and we're going to do another stripe of white, going back through the stripe of white, down into the red, back through the stripe of red, and you're just going to continue to do that fringe so it looks like your flag stripes are continuing down on your earring. After the fringe is done here, you can see how fun it is to watch it hang. Couple ideas. We have these really cool open forms. You could have it so you make 2 gold loops and it hangs down from that open form. You just take a little needle, remove the protective coating, and you have the stars. We also have the open stars, or the closed stars rather, that you could hang down from the bottom if you want a nice bold piece. I'm going to go a little bit more subdued, as tempted as I am to use that really cool star on the top. I'm going to do something else where I use that. And I'm picking up a 6mm pearl and another one of my beads, and then I have my wire guard on here too. I'm coming out the last of my fringe here at the bottom, and I'm going to sew back up to the top of the design, but you can see I'm kind of sewing on an angle here. I want to bring my thread and needle out along the top of the blue, because what I can do, depending on which way you want to hang them, facing in or out, I'm going to face mine that it is correct here when I go on the top. What I want to do is bring my needle and thread out along the blue here. Now I can really impact how much kind of this flag waves by pulling. I don't want it to wave. I just want it to stay straight. I'm going to bring my thread and needle out in towards the interior of one of my blue beads here. And I'm going to grab a 15-0 of the gold color. We're going to decorate the front of our flag here, that it has some 15-0s acting as stars. Add a 15-0 and I'm going to sew through my next peyote stitch bead. That gold bead's just going to kind of sit and hang out at the top. There's no rhyme or reason. You can go through whichever beads you want, adding a little gold star, because obviously we can't fit in 50, and sewing back through the next bead. If you want, you can do it on both sides, kind of up to you. Add a gold bead, sew through the next bead, and I'm going to come out over here using that stop bead kind of out of the way. And just decorating the top with some of these gold little 15s along the piece to make it look like your stars are on your flag. So you can see here I'm just sewing back and forth. On the original piece, what I did was just go up and back through the peyote stitch, also an option. Add a couple more here along the side. Again, I'm not doing it in a specific pattern, just kind of filling the space of that void to make it look like some of those stars are there. Back in here, add another little 15. You can use the 11s if you want, or you don't even have to do this step. Nothing says you have to add in these little stars. All right, once you have however many stars you want, that it's not overwhelming there on the piece, I'm going to sew back up so I can come out through one of the sides of my flag. Come out there. And now I'm going to get ready for my top here. Again, very tempted to do this, but instead I'm going to keep it nice and simple. I'm going to use my gold 11-0s and do 1, 2, and 3 of those gold 11-0s. Then we're going into our 6mm pearl to get that nice pearl color. I'm going to go in here and do a 4 or a one of the crystal beads above it. Back down through the wire guard. Through one side, through the other. Back through that 4mm, or sorry, I keep saying 4, 3mm bicone. Once you're back through there, we're going to go back through the pearl as well. And if you want it to sit a little bit more in a V, you can add more of the 11-0 seed beads. This one's going to bring it kind of right in the middle here at the top. 1, 2, 3, and 4 more, or sorry, 3 more of your gold 11-0 seed beads. That stretches it across the top here, bringing them back towards the center. And then we're just going to basically tie it off the side. Remove that stop bead. Pull that away from the piece. Nice and tight, kind of doing that knot, because I do want it to sit right on top. Not a lot of space in there. If you want more space and you want it to sit almost like it's on a hanger, like a flag hanger, you can do 4 or 5 seed beads there. Nice tight. Right over left, left over right. Pull that nice and tight. And then what we're going to do is sew into the project, so we get rid of any extra little thread slack. I'm going into the peyote stitch along the top here. As I do that, I pull that nice and tight again, so it lays right along the top here. I'm going to go back through the flag, weaving through the top, reinforcing my stitch here. We're really just going back up to the top. And as I go back up to the top, that's going to allow me to go back up through the purl and reinforce here as well. Going back up through the seed beads, up through the purl, through the crystal, around the wire guard, and down on the opposite side. Super cute, easy and fast earring. Can be done in a multitude of different ways, different patterns. Doesn't need to be the exact flag. It can just hang down. Bring it off to the side then. Over here to center it up. We're already tied there, so we don't need to. We're going to bring it down into the peyote stitch towards the back of the pendant. Sewing through then along the back here, weaving and getting rid of this extra little thread end. Lots of different ways. I chose the silver lined colors. You can do the opaques, you can do the translucents in the silver line. Really have fun creating this little earring. All that's left to do then is to take your ear wire off and on, opening and closing along the top. And then whatever way you put on the ear wire, just make sure that your flag is front facing for those little stars to fit towards the front. Really cute, simple little flag earring that you can wear all year long. Thanks so much for joining me in creating these streaming American flag earrings. They're super fun. I can't wait to wear them on the 4th of July. And really, this year is a great year to have some American flag earrings on as well. Remember, if you need any supplies, want to check out the seed beads, go ahead and look below the video. In the description, you can get a link there back to our website so you can gather everything up. As always, if you haven't yet, hit that little subscribe button from us from Potomac Beads so you don't miss anything here. And stay tuned for more inspirational designs.